This is the state roundtable for the State of Connecticut Department of Housing annual plan for fiscal 22-23 in support of the state's 5-year consolidated plan for housing and community development. We appreciate your attendance, your participation, and your interest in the housing and community development activities of the state of Connecticut. This particular action plan is specifically for the 5 federal formula grant programs identified in the plan itself. And I will go over them very quickly. And my apologies, it's now 6. We had a new one added, and I keep forgetting that. The 6 programs covered are the Home Investment Partnerships Program, the Recovery Housing Program, the Small Cities Community Development Block Grant Program, the Emergency Solutions Grant, Housing Opportunities for Persons with AIDS, and the National Housing Trust Fund. Those 6 programs are formula allocations to the state of Connecticut, administered by the Department of Housing, provided pursuant to federal programs. Many of you attended our pre-draft state roundtable to get input on the preparation of our draft. All comments received were incorporated into the new plan, which is now out for a 30-day public comment period and subject to legislative approval prior to submission to HUD. We had a public hearing yesterday. Was very poorly attended, which is not necessarily a bad thing. We had a very well-attended public hearing in advance of the preparation of the draft and got a lot of positive feedback on the plan itself. I'm going to throw up a brief summary of what the plan will cover, and I'll walk through it very quickly. The annual action plan provides information on resources, that is what funding sources are available to address the state's needs and objectives. Activities, methods of distribution we'll use for each of those 6 programs, and they are not necessarily the same. The geographic distribution of those funds, if there's any targeting, as well as distribution within targeted populations. For example, many of the programs are targeted at homeless and special needs activities. Others are strategies to address underserved populations, foster and maintain affordable housing, remove barriers, assist families who are in poverty. It details citizen participation, which this particular meeting is a part of, and details the certifications and application forms required by HUD in order to access those funds. I'll throw up the chart of funding that we anticipate. We finally did get notification of the awards that we will be getting. I'll go over them very quickly, and then we'll have an open discussion for anything you guys want to talk about. In the chart before you, you'll see 2 columns, state and HUD. This action plan specifically is required to talk about the HUD formula grants that you see. These are the first 4 programs: RHP Home, CDBG, National Housing Trust Fund, as well as ESG and HOPWA. We'll talk about these development and housing support programs first, very quickly. You'll also see in the state column a lot of the state resources that will be targeted to these activities in the coming year. You'll note about $196 million worth of state investment will leverage approximately $30 million, $36 million or so in federal resources, for a total of about $232 million, specifically for development and housing support activities. At the same time, we'll be receiving about $94 million worth of total federal resources, leveraged by an additional $108 million worth of state resources, again, committed to individual and family support services. for a total of about $209 million. As you can see, as an agency, we administer around $450 million worth of assistance in a given year. To do that, we have about 40 staff. So we get a lot done with a whole little, if you will. The development and housing support programs are targeted specifically based on program eligibility, home RHP, National Housing Trust Fund, and CDBG produce or preserve housing. They can also do some community development activities as well. HOPWA ESG, down here, are targeted at dealing with homeless services, emergency shelter grants, and related activities, including things like homeless diversion or eviction prevention activities. I'll stop there and say we appreciate the input that we got prior to the creation of the draft. Look forward to any questions or comments any of you may have. One thing I will ask is if you have any questions or any comments, please identify yourself, the agency you represent, so that we can make note and make the appropriate reports to HUD. So please raise your hand and we'll be happy to recognize you. Alice Minervino, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. I'm Alice Minervino from the Department of Mental Health and Addiction Services. Sorry, I'm not on camera, but I'm trying to eat lunch in between during a meeting. So I do apologize, and I figure nobody wants to see that. So that was not why I raised my hand, though. So my question is, Michael, to you. I saw on your list that there was money for supportive housing, permanent supportive housing. Could you? That different from the RAP, so I just didn't know what that funding entails.
Okay, so I popped the chart back up so that everybody can see what we're talking about. You're talking about this particular row here, permanent supportive housing. This is actually temporary rental, I shouldn't say temporary, it's rental assistance to support some existing permanent supportive housing. It's not a new activity. And it's not new money per se. It's simply to maintain the permanent supportive housing that we have that does not otherwise already have rental subsidies. Okay.
Oh, so like some of the LIHTC buildings and those kinds of things?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And thank you for the question, Alice. Mr. Slivka, how are you, sir? Please introduce yourself.
I'm well, Michael. Thank you. It's nice to see you and so many other friendly and familiar faces. I'm John Slivka. I'm representing the Department of Aging and Disability Services on behalf of the Commissioner. So a couple of things, and I'll try to sort of tie them all together in one question. And I brought this up in the past, but I want to bring it up again. I don't see a lot here with respect specifically to the disability community, and I also just wanted to ask if somebody could just elaborate on that. And number two, I see here for elderly and congregate rental assistance, roughly almost $2 million, and it seems to me that that's a low number relative to us being the 6th or 7th oldest state in the country. By age, and so I was wondering if you could speak to that. And I bring both of these things up because at our agency, and as well many of our partners, the Centers for Independent Living and so forth, we get a lot of calls about finding either, housing for the elderly or accessible housing, and frankly, we don't have a great resource to point them to, and we could use some help on that so that we can point those folks in the right direction and get them the help that they need. So thanks, Michael.
No, absolutely, John, and I appreciate the comment. And although they're not called out, there are in fact priorities within our major funding programs to create both supportive housing and housing specifically targeted at persons with disabilities. And I can go a little bit deeper with that in a split second. This $100 million affordable housing flex, this $30 million in trust fund, this $50 million in affordable housing ARP money. Part of the priorities for the use of those funds include set-asides for supportive housing. Up to 20% of the projects can, and again, we emphasize units for persons with disabilities. Specifically with regard to the elderly, these two line items, elderly congregate rental assistance and the congregate operating subsidy program, which is about $11 million, are used to support our existing elderly and congregate facilities. They are rental subsidies or service subsidies, specifically to serve those roughly 7,000 units statewide. I think I've mentioned it before, but in case I have not, the best resource for persons looking for accessible housing is the CT Housing Search website. It's www.cthousingsearch.org. CT Housing Search, all one word. We've been sponsoring that website for about 12 years now. And any units that we build, including those with accessibility features and without, are required to be listed at that website. At the same time, CHFA, the Connecticut Housing Finance Authority, and our Hartford field office refer their owners to list their units at that website as well. We can't make them, we make ours. So right now we've got roughly 35,000 units of rental housing listed at that website across the state of Connecticut. It is landlord controlled though, so landlords are responsible for updating when they have units available. But we get a monthly update on activity. Our landlords tend to keep it up fairly well. It's free advertising for them. They see it as a significant benefit. And we continue to push that again with all of the units that we build. You saw, and Alice referred to the permanent supportive housing line item. Those are actual subsidies to support existing permanent supportive housing, all of which are in fact listed there. And the vast majority of our assistance funnels through the Coordinated Access Network or through the CANs. And if you're familiar with the HMIS system and the homeless management, it's the Homeless Management Information System. That in fact prioritizes persons with disabilities as they run through the evaluation criteria. We don't want people to be homeless though to access those services. So CT Housing Search is the best way to hook people up directly. But we continue to emphasize the creation of handicapped accessible and permanent supportive housing throughout all of our development programs. Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mike. That's .com, correct? Not .gov.
.org.
.org. Thank you.
Yep. cthousingsearch.org. Yes, sir. Mr. Garcia, you are up, sir, and a pleasure to see you. Please introduce yourself.
Likewise. Good afternoon, Mike. Brian Garcia, President and CEO of the Connecticut Green Bank. I had a comment, an update, and a question. The comment was I just wanted to commend the commissioner and her team, Nandini and her team, so both DOH and CHFA, for assisting DEEP in the Green Bank within a docket at the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority. So that was my comment, is thanking the team for that.
That's been a lift, but we appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, the second is on the update. So just last week, PURA made a decision in that docket, specifically as it applies to the definition of affordable housing. This is a follow-on to Public Act 21-48 last year that got approved by the legislature that last year. And now this year, the interpretation or the decision around the definition of affordable housing was made. It's really a good decision. It follows the guidance and suggestion of the housing agencies. What it does from an energy perspective, just looking at all the docs that you sent over as the need to address energy, is it makes on-site solar in battery storage affordable for affordable housing, almost so much so that on a present value basis, it pays for itself. So all of that is great. Just making folks aware. I'll chat through the PURA decision in a second. And then lastly is the question, Mike, is around, is there any suggestion you have for us? Should we look at the docs and suggest something to make folks more aware of this, or how should we handle kind of the around that decision so that folks feel supported from the perspective of incentives that are available to reduce energy burden and increase energy security?
And I apologize, my team's cut out right in the middle of that. If I think I got the gist. You're asking how we can make our owners and individual tenants informed about the availability of this pending program. Is that what you were saying?
That's right. Primarily the owners, who would then be able to decide if they want to install clean energy on site that would benefit them as well as their tenants. A part of the PURA decision that I chatted through also will bring HUD into the picture so that there would not be any adverse impact on the rental subsidy as a result of more savings going back into the pockets of the tenants. There's a broad national policy that's moving in that direction to making that happen.
Absolutely, and I've been participating in the SCEF, and one of the things that we are looking at is drawing on the national experience, particularly the state of California has implemented a program very similar to this. So we're going to be getting some information from them on how to specifically target the HUD units. HUD apparently out in California, the California field office made a decision that supported the tenant's ability to actually get the benefit for these energy savings. We're trying to see how they wrote it, how it works, and our intent is to share it with the Hartford field office, and if appropriate, get a similar determination on their side. Relative to the state units, and as you point out, Brian, they took both yours, and CHAFA's recommendations relative to what to count as affordable housing. We'll be reaching out to those owners once the details are worked out on the availability of the tariff and how it's going to work under the various scenarios. We'll be doing some direct outreach on behalf of that program and try to encourage our existing owners to participate, as well as start talking to them about what they're doing on new construction and substantial rehabilitation activities to try to basically get it in the front door, because you know as well as I do, it's cheaper to build it that way than it is to fix it after. Okay, so thanks, appreciate it. Any other comments, questions about what we will be doing in the next year with all these resources? Elena Trueworthy, please introduce yourself and feel free.
Great. Yeah, thank you so much, Michael. I'm here from the Office of Early Childhood along with my colleague Maggie Adair. So not a question, just a comment, and actually just a thank you to the department for the strengthening and increased work when it comes and focus on early childhood and families with young children when it comes to housing, and especially in the Head Start community. And so this was just a thank you, and very interested in the work that you all are doing, and thank you for sharing it.
Thank you, Elena and Maggie, both you're welcome. And for those who didn't see it, the governor announced the Head Start initiative in conjunction with our Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. Well, we will be providing vouchers to specifically targeted families to give them broader opportunity relative to the Head Start program. It's a really interesting and cool initiative, and hopefully between our two agencies, we can have it be very successful. So thank you for your continued participation and interest. Michelle Dumas-Geller. And I think I said that right. And please introduce yourself.
It's Kuehler. I'm Michelle Dumas Kuehler at the Commission on Human Rights and Opportunities. I'm here on behalf of our Director, Tani Hughes. I know that you have a fair housing line item on there, and I know you've had that consistently, obviously. And I'm just curious as to what you do with that line item.
So thank you for asking, and I threw it back up. And actually, that's a line item that was put in place specifically for the Connecticut Fair Housing Center. That grant, that $670,000 grant, goes to the Connecticut Fair Housing Center annually. We do have a specific scope of work that gets negotiated every year for what they will provide for that $670,000. It includes a wide variety of services, including eviction assistance, legal representation for individuals who are experiencing issues with their landlords. It deals with legal assistance for homeowners relative to the prevention of foreclosure. They do a whole lot of training on fair housing. They do fair housing testing across the state, both in terms of rental and home purchase. There's a detailed scope of work. If you're interested, I'd be happy to provide you a copy. It is public information, and we do get an annual report from them. It's part of our annual agency report, which is available at the department's website. You can actually see what they accomplished in the last year in exchange for those funds. But thank you.
Perfect. I'll go take a look. If I need anything else, I'll be in contact.
Please reach out. We can direct you specifically if you need, either Laura or myself, to that report and the activities that they carry out on our behalf.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, questions? Okay. I appreciate it. I thank you all for your time and your interest. One thing I do want to emphasize while I have you all here, one of the most beneficial things that we have gotten out of these interactions has been increased interagency cooperation and collaboration. In my 35 plus years, we have never been more connected agency to agency. I see the same, many of the same faces over and over again, year after year, and we get better and better at working together and combining the resources that our agencies bring to bear. Well, we leverage your expertise with ours, and the citizens of the state of Connecticut benefit as a result. I cannot thank you enough for continuing to do that. And John, I'll get to you in one more second. I just want to say there've been a lot of retirements, so some faces have changed. The one thing I will ask, as I do here, introduce other members of your agencies to the interagency collaboration that we bring to the table. The faces may change, but we need to keep these connections open and working because it has been extremely successful. And that's more valuable than the money that we have alone. Mr. Slifka, you are up again.
Thanks, Michael. Just a very quick question in terms of next steps. So the plan will be sent to us, and are we currently in a public comment period, or where to just talk about quickly where things stand?
Yes, the plan is out now for public comment. If you need us to send, it is available on our website. I think Laura sent you the plan with the original invite.
Yeah,
but if you
plan
lost
and
the
the
link,
CDBG plan are both with the original invite. So,
thank you.
Yep.
We will complete the public comment period, take all comments received, incorporate them into the plan itself, along with any responses that are appropriate. In addition, we have a requirement for the CDBG allocation plan for a legislative hearing on the community development block grant portion of this action plan. That right now is trying to be scheduled. I think we're looking at the first week of July, at least that's my hope. because the sooner we have that legislative hearing, assuming that the plan is approved by the legislature, we can then submit it to HUD. HUD has 45 days to approve. However, in these expedited times, they very rarely take the full 45 days. We are hopeful they'll do it in less than 30, at which point we can begin to commit and expend those funds.
So the public
Really,
comment period
that's
ends
it.
when, Michael? I'm sorry, the public comment period ends when?
Laura, I'm going to turn to you because that's you wrote the notice. So when is our public comment period over? Or did we lose her? Oh, I
Nope,
don't
she's
see
on
Laura
mute.
anymore.
She's
Oh,
on
there
mute, and I
she
think
is.
she's still looking.
Ah, there you go. Thank you, John.
It's on Monday, June 27th.
27. Okay, great. Thanks
Yeah,
very
it's
much.
a 30-day.
Okay.
If any of you have written comments that you would like incorporated into our plan, please email them to myself or Laura. We'll be happy to review them, make additional comments or responses as appropriate, and include them when we submit them to HUD. Okay. All right. I want to thank you all for your time, your interest in what we are doing, and your collaboration with the Department of Housing. We continue to provide good service to the citizens of the state of Connecticut. And as long as we continue to work together, I think we will be as successful as we have been, if not more so. Thank you again. Have a wonderful afternoon. I hope everyone remains healthy and safe in these difficult times. Have a
Thanks so
great day.
much.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, Michael, we had to stop the recording. Did
Got it.
you say, okay, thank you. Did you do that?